Goedemiddag, welkom bij dit vijfde webinar van deze eerste dag van de webinarweek. Zoals jullie ongetwijfeld weten organiseren we deze week 25 webinars over de hele wereld van recruitment, inhuur en woensdag speciale dag over de HR Tech. Nou, het webinar wat we zo meteen gaan volgen, dat staat misschien wel mooi, juist in verbinding met al die drie onderwerpen. Want we schakelen straks over naar de Verenigde Staten, waar Andy Hammer van Pontoon een interessant verhaal, denk ik, gaat houden over de 5 top trends en ontwikkelingen als je het hebt over wat tech gaat betekenen voor de wereld van inhuur. Op het allereerste webinar van vandaag ben ik daar zelf al wat dieper op ingegaan. Dat misschien toch wel op een tipping point staan dat die technologie ook echt gaat doorbreken en echt wel wat fundamentele zaken gaat veranderen in ons hele vakgebied. Met de keuze als organisaties van achter welke hype ren je aan en wat laat je nog eventjes voor je en wat ga je zelf incorporeren en wat laat je anderen doen. Voor de leveranciers, alle bureaus die hier ook vandaag zitten te luisteren, denk ik ook een heel belangrijk onderwerp om te kijken van wat moet je daar nou mee en hoe kan je nou met technologie toegevoegde waarde blijven leveren rond het inhuur- en recruitmentproces. Okay, well, I'm switching to English now because the presentation will be in English. Hi to you, Annie from the United States. It's morning for you. It's late in the afternoon for us. It's great to have you here on our show. Well, I'm very interested into what you have to say, so I'm now switching the presentation to you, so you can show your slides.
Okay. Do you see my slides?
Okay. Thank you. Also, welcome to Tim.
Yes, great. Thank you so much. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Annie Hammer, and I'm responsible for our Global Emerging Technologies function within Pontoon. What that really means is I have a team that is constantly evaluating what's happening in the talent technology space, driving our technology to really determine our strategy around new tools, determining what clients we partner with or what companies we partner with for our clients, and in order to deliver technology-enabled solution to our clients, and getting those tools properly implemented, configured, set up to really align to a talent acquisition process. And it's really great to be here because I love talking about the trends and topics that are really going to shape talent in the future. It's something I'm really passionate about and that will really transform the future of the business and the way that we work and how we acquire talent through technology. So I'll let Tim do a quick introduction as well.
Hi everyone, it's Tim Burnett. So my role is pretty much what Annie's just been describing. I sit on Annie's team and I'm Annie's boots on the ground in EMEA in Europe. So I'm based out of Pontoon's London office, but very much with a perspective over Europe. I've got a background in the ATS technology space. I've been working in various consulting roles with ATS vendors over the last 10 years.
Great, thanks, Tim. So let's kind of jump in here just to get us started. I'll spend just a quick minute or two on a little bit of background about Pontoon, just so you can kind of see where we're coming from and who we are and what we do. First and foremost at Pontoon, we consider ourselves very focused on talent. That's talent in the various varieties, whether that be contingent, permanent, contractor, freelancer. We're really focused on helping our clients develop and execute the right talent strategy for them based upon their specific business and their specific business challenges and overall objectives. To that end, here you can see just a quick view of the scale at which we work. We do this really across all verticals and industries and sectors. We advise and execute in partnership across the globe. So today I want to talk about some of the trends that are impacting talent, whether that be contingent or permanent. Really going to be thinking about it from a global perspective. Where we excel the most is really where we have clients that have large, complex problems that they're trying to solve, and varying technologies across multiple countries, regions, languages, and really working with them to put together a seamless technology solution that achieves your talent goals. Today, Pontoon has resources across over 35 locations, so 35 countries, I should say. We perform our work with our clients across a total of 110 countries. So while we're physically have a physical presence in 35. We're delivering across about 110 right now, with North America and Europe really being the largest regions for us, but APAC and Latin America certainly being the fastest growing. So I say that just to give you some context for when we're talking about technology and the trends that we're seeing in talent. That's really kind of looking across those different facets. Pontoon is part of the larger Adecco organization. So Adecco is the largest HR solution organization in the world. In addition to performing our services for our clients within Pontoon, we also look to kind of go into the different elements of Adecco to achieve clients' goals. So that could mean, implementing a solution that pulls on 3 or 4 different brands within the Adecco organization to really determine what the right needed talent is. And instead of just continuing to talk about, Pontoon and ourselves today, Tim and I are most interested in really talking about technology. So before we get into the trends, Tim is going to share just a little bit about how we approach technology to frame up how we're thinking about these trends.
Thanks, Annie. So yeah, at Pontoon, our approach has evolved in 3 areas of focus as we relate and engage with our customers around technology. First, we evaluate and look at technology very broadly. We have a very inclusive multi-channel approach to looking at where we segment our technology, and we look at a very diverse user group. So that could be individuals within organizations, or individuals external to organizations, external technology partners, etc. It's a very wide multi-channel approach. And while we most heavily focus, obviously, on HR and talent acquisition or recruitment tech, we also look at technology more broadly and look at it across industries. As a matter of fact, we have a number of solutions in play today with our clients that utilize technology that was developed for other industries completely outside of HR and recruiting. As you'll hear Annie talk about a little bit more in these areas, it's these types of multi-channel, multi-design solutions that we get most excited about at Pontoon. In addition, we focus heavily on collaboration. Again, that's collaboration with our clients. It can be collaboration with hiring managers within our clients, external candidates, and getting their perspective and needs, and certainly technology providers. We focus very heavily on being technology agnostic and working with a multitude of technology providers to engage and develop the best custom tailored solution for our clients, regardless of what those various underlying technologies may be. Finally, we know that what we have to do this work over and over. A phrase we use internally is innovation and perpetuity. The marketplace is constantly changing. Client needs are constantly changing. New technologies are coming into play, and therefore we have my team under Annie's leadership that focuses on evaluating the marketplace and looking what's out there and understanding it, testing it, and finding out what's better than what we saw last week and continuously updating. We know that our clients' needs are also going to change and evolve. We focus heavily on trying to take a forward-looking approach to solution development, not just something that will solve a pain point today, but something that we can scale and grow and expand as our customers' needs and business challenges change over time as well. So if we can move on to the next slide. Thanks, Annie. So the landscape of HR and recruitment continues to become more complex. At the same time, the HR and talent tech space is becoming very crowded with a large number of providers. And if I think about what's happened over the last few years, the global spend on HR technology in 2016 was $14 billion alone, with over $2 billion in VC venture capitalist investment. Right now, waiting to be confirmed, the recruitment technology space is set to have the highest amount of venture capitalist investment out of all of the HR tech categories in 2017. But what that means for you as practitioners in the space is you are constantly being approached with every buzzword imaginable to convince you that you need the next best point solution, and they're trying to convince you that their product is going to positively disrupt and change your talent strategy, and making sense of that, all that noise can be very difficult. So through our team of technology and consulting experts, we boiled it down to 5 main trending topics that we think will dominate the talent technology space in 2018 and beyond. If you need some guidance on where to focus and how to think about your technology strategy and what will influence it, these 5 areas are what we think you really need to be thinking about, discussing, focusing and considering as you develop a strategy as you look at your own technology ecosystem. So I'm now going to hand back to Annie to go into these in a little bit more detail. Annie.
Thanks, Tim. So Total Talent is more than just taking a blended solution and combining some RPO and some MSP and calling it a new solution offering. And really what we think here is that Total Talent technology stacks are really going to be kind of the future of where we're going, and something that we need to really be thinking about now. Total Talent should really break down the barriers between HR and permanent hiring and procurement or contingent recruitment to blend insights, incorporate different channels for talent regardless of type, and ultimately bringing technology to bear to combine these things and help organizations get more full and broad visibility across the talent market. So it's really getting the right talent from the right channel at the right value prop, and then managing that talent across employment types. So at Pontoon, we recently conducted a global workforce solution survey, and what we found is that 55% of the respondents, so more than half, said they will or are likely to implement Total Talent solutions sometime within the next 5 years. Within that, though, what we found even more interesting is that a full quarter, 25%, said that they're actually already moving forward right now and implementing some type of solution that moves into Total Talent. So let's talk about what that means as a technology trend and the impact to HR technology. If we go back a few years, many organizations were really in a place of, yes, it would be really nice to know about my contingent workforce and my permanent hiring workforces together. And there really isn't a technology that can support that. Managers need to go off into separate systems, or they need to interact with processes different. And therefore, companies just really kind of sat and waited. They waited for a technology to come along that could do CRM, that could do applicant tracking, that could do vendor management, and probably some other 3-letter acronyms for that matter. Many companies are still waiting today for a technology solution that can come along and deliver a single platform for Total Talent. And while maybe someday that will exist, it's most likely that even if it does, it wouldn't be a best-in-class solution across all labor types and functions. It's not going to be a system that can just do everything and be everything to everyone for a particular strategy or process. And so that's really where you need to take a look at building a built-for-purpose tech stack. And so every company's tech stack is going to look and feel a little bit different. It's not that you're going to go off and buy a tech stack off a shelf and say, this is exactly what we're going to do, and this is what's going to work for my organization. If I think about our client base today, we have a utilities company that we work with that is going through a transformation of being what is perceived as a traditional utilities company to being a technology company. They wanted to have line of sight into both their contingent and permanent workforces, and they wanted to be able to do things like have a single view where data was properly aligned by organizational structure and call center. And while that seems really simple, they had data residing in Fieldglass as their VMS, Workday as their HR system, as well as other systems that contain different information. And so their systems were disconnected. The processes operated in complete silos despite the end business users being the same. And so if I'm sitting there as a hiring leader, I have to interact with different systems. I don't have a complete view of my workforce. And so what we did with that client was really set up an integration to allow a holistic view of their workforce. And that really is going to lay the groundwork for us to now be able to map the journey of their candidates, their workers, their managers, in order to stack additional relevant tools into their ecosystem. And so then it doesn't become just about a VMS or an HRIS or an ATS and a VMS, but rather it's giving them the platform to build additional technologies and really build that total tech stack. And so, as you're thinking about your talent strategy, building an effective tech stack will be critical. The talent strategy and the technology need to be very aligned. The technology is going to underpin that strategy. So it's going to really require you to take a look at, and if you have a legacy system provider, you're going to have to really push them to be more open and be more connected to other platforms in the ecosystem. So I'd really encourage you to think about your partners today that you might have in your own organization for your technologies that support HR, and and push them to be a bit more open to plug in other tools and really help you move towards a total talent strategy. So if we go into, let's talk about trend number 2 here. The topic of AI. It's probably one out of the 5 that we're going to talk about today that really has the most buzz and hype. If you think about what is being talked about in social media, on articles and conferences, everywhere you look, you're going to see a lot of talk about AI. And so we thought, we heard a lot about candidate experience over the last, 5, maybe even 10 years. I can assure you that as we talk about AI, we're going to hear even more about that. So if we look at what's happening more broadly within organizations, 41% have made progress in adopting or fully implementing cognitive or AI technologies. That's not to say that that's happening in HR though. That's basically overall as an organization. So that could be within the business, for example, within the product function or within the delivery of products, that AI is happening. And so if we think about AI and how it relates to talent, another kind of in a recent global workforce solution survey we did, almost half of the respondents perceived the impact of robotics, AI, or cognitive HR technology will have an impact on talent management in the next 2 to 5 years, with an additional 24% saying it will have an impact in 6 to 10 years. And so for me, that's really impactful as a trend that we definitely need to keep watching and consider how you build your talent strategy around it, or build AI as a key part of the solution that underpins your talent strategy. The definition of AI, particularly in talent acquisition, can be somewhat confusing. It can really vary depending upon what you read or the context in which you're looking at it. Overall, if you kind of think about it, simplified version for me, it's overall the simulation of human intelligence and the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. AI isn't something you go out and buy in its literal form. Sometimes I, be talking with people and they'll say, well, I'm going out and I'm looking for an AI tool. It's more that you're, I think it can be a bit confusing because you need to really think about when you're building a tech stack, not necessarily that you're buying an AI tool, but rather, what is it the business problem you're trying to solve? And therefore, what tool might solve that? And then that tool may have an AI element. From an application perspective, we as HR and procurement functions, depending upon where you individually sit in your business, we've historically done a ton of administration work, creating requisitions, sorting information, updating systems, and repeating similar conversations over and over. And so with AI, what that really will allow us to do is focus on things such as relationship and strategic pipelining and consulting versus doing that administration work. The application AI could have, I think it could have a few different applications. Some of these, you can see the 4 in the gray here on the slide. Those are 4 that I think are going to have the significant ability to influence how we deliver talent. I mean, it could be things like upfront engagement. So, historically, you think about technology and people have thought, oh, if I install this technology, it's going to become, just a tool and lower touch. But actually, AI can actually make it feel like there's a higher touch experience through the use of things like a chatbot or things that give a higher level of touch. Workflow automation could be a pre-screen process or a requisition intake that come in through a chatbot versus traditionally we were faced with logging into another system, filling out another form, maybe filling out the same information that we did last time. And so these different applications will really enhance the experience and allow us to gain efficiencies that way. To use an example, through a partnership with Maya, which is an AI chatbot that leverages natural language processing and machine learning techniques, what we're able to do in the recruitment space is perform outreach and communication with job candidates, including screening engagement. And so this allows for not only increased candidate experience, because I feel like I'm getting a higher touch through interacting with Maya, but it also results in higher conversion because that first point of touch happens immediately after a candidate applies. And so, these are kind of a few different things to think about. Matching is another area that I think will have quite a big impact on talent acquisition or on procurement, because really it's going to allow for the ability to prioritize. And so if you have a very large pipelines of talent, while the option to shrink the top of the funnel could be to limit the volume coming in. For example, we have a client that huge consumer brand. And so they get a significant amount of people coming and wanting to join their organization. And so what they've done historically is to say, okay, I'm going to limit how many people I allow in the top of the funnel. So I'm only going to allow 15 in. That way we don't have too much volume to handle or to process. But that really doesn't support from a branding perspective to ensure you're getting the right candidates and the right quality. And so the problem with doing that is you really limit your brand. Every time I go out to apply for a role at that organization, there may be limitations that I experience, or I always, might hit a maximum pool and can't apply. And so therefore, matching technology really allows more to come in at the top of the funnel, but to prioritize who really moves forward very quickly. So this one I'm really excited about. I'm sure that all of you have seen a number of topics about this, articles about this, especially because you're on this webinar. I'm sure that all of you are individuals that are really kind of taking a look at what's progressive and where I need to be focused. So this is one I would definitely continue to watch. So we're going to move into the next trend or topic for us today, and hopefully you guys are all still with us and hopefully gathering some insights and things that you can use in your business. If you look at some recent statistics, 71% of companies have identified people analytics as their highest priority. It's a primary focus area in every other HR report you look at. So just like AI is all over, predictive analytics and the analytics more generally is kind of all over when we look at HR. Yet it's really a problem because only 8% of companies, which I feel like the stat is just staggering, only 8% of companies feel that they have the data that's usable within HR. So if you're starting from a place of not having core data or having accurate data or having all of your data in one place, then you really don't need to be moving to predictive analytics. Kind of move that off your immediate goal list, because first you really need to go back and think about, how do I get this data and how do I make sure that I'm starting from a solid foundation. And then once you have the right data as a foundation, and having that as key, it allows us to then have usable data and understanding of metrics that drive performance. And so then you can move to a place of predictive analytics, which has what I think is going to be a significant opportunity to impact talent acquisition and talent management. So once you have that core data available, predictive analytics can be leveraged in many different aspects of HR. These are 4 examples listed on the screen that I think are probably the most common for all of you, or common across our industry. Candidate quality, the health of a talent pool, employee retention, and market intelligence. To use an example of predictive analytics addressing candidate quality, I'll give you an example of something that we are doing today by embedding technology that helps us assess where, why, and how people fit within our teams as part of the acquisition process. So embedding technology, we're really helping assess candidates that are going to be, hopefully going to be a fit for our organization. So maybe we're looking for someone that has technical aptitude, business acumen, and the ability to consult with clients. It can be really difficult to really make sense of who's going to be a fit, but who's going to stay engaged and retained long term. And so through the team analytics that we're able to, technology, we're able to really predict and look at our current state of our team and then benchmark future candidates against that. And it's allowed us to really stay on the retention side. We can influence it by knowing up front when we're acquiring talent, what is our potential retention going to look like based on predicting fit. So it's lowered our risk of making the wrong hire. It's increased our retention through using a methodology that ensures that we're not wasting time and money on someone that isn't going to be a fit and isn't going to be retained by the organization. And so there's many different applications of predictive analytics. And I think, to each of you in your organizations, you'll need to really kind of determine what makes sense for you and where do you want to focus. But getting that foundation data right is really important. So in our next trend, we're going to talk about customizing the user experience, which is utilizing commercial grade experiences to enhance overall engagement of those who interact with your recruitment, or actually more broadly, HR processes and systems.
Annie, when you say commercial grade experience, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, good question, Tim. So commercial grade here isn't really what we're looking at, really building something that's built for heavy use and has many configurable options and features to be very tailored and personalized to the user. We're not, that's a lot of words, but what it really means is, for when I'm thinking about my own experience here, maybe I'll give you guys an example. That might be the easiest way to talk about it. Think about when I'm traveling for work. I've come to expect that, I receive a notification on my phone, and watch, for that matter, from Marriott or Hilton or whatever hotel I'm staying at, to let me know I have an upcoming stay, them notifying me when I can check in, giving me some options for things such as late checkout, but also I can obtain my digital key right on my phone to go straight to my room upon arrival. And so that's kind of an example of how, I think about it, a user experience and a commercial grade experience. All of those different features and options are things that are happening within my preferences or on my notifications, and it's allowing me to go from the airport to the office, via Lyft or Uber or taxi, and then onto my hotel via an app on my phone. And for me, that's my personal preference. We've all come to expect to have an experience of our own choice. And some of you may be thinking, well, when I go to a hotel, I prefer to go to the front desk and get my key that way, versus I'm preferring to get my key on my phone or get notified on my watch. And so that's all preference. And so when we talk about user experience and customizing it, that's really what we're talking about, is being able to create something that's very scalable, but takes into account what that user is expecting. This isn't just talking about candidates, it's also talking about managers, it's talking about recruiters, it's talking about anyone that really is a user within the process, or a user within someone that you're delivering service delivered to. And so when we think about kind of the three different areas here, one being designed experiences, so it allows you to interact in a way that you're comfortable, which is kind of what I'm describing when I'm talking about the hotel example. Alternative interfaces, which is basically you might have 4 or 5 systems running, but actually the user doesn't feel like I'm going in 4 or 5 different places, because you've basically layered something on top that gives them access to everything they need in one location, but you might have 4 systems underneath that are underpinning it. And then finally, the use of personas. And if you haven't thought about using personas in your organization today, I'd really encourage you to take a look at that. And think about how can you categorize your workers, your candidates, your user group into those different personas, and be able to serve information up for them. Personas aren't just generational based. I think that can be a bit of a misconception, but rather you take those different elements of preferences and what the user is looking for, and really create the personas that are going to allow you to customize that experience. So if I move to our last trend that we'll talk about today, and hopefully everyone's still with us, the term of automation means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. People might be more likely to automate or create efficiencies, but what does that really mean? A lot of people say that they are looking for that, but what does that mean? More specifically at Pontoon, and what we're talking about in this particular trend is we're referring to robotic process automation, or RPA. And RPA is the application of technology that allows employees in a company to configure software, or essentially a robot, to capture and interpret existing applications for processing a transaction, or maybe manipulating data, triggering responses and communications with other digital systems. This is probably maybe the least exciting topic if you're kind of looking at all 5 of them. And I probably shouldn't have saved it for the end, because you guys might be more excited about the other ones. But it's really the trend that, for me, has the potential to have the most significant impact for having automation and positive impact on the process and bottom line. And I think it frequently gets overlooked, or is currently getting overlooked by a lot of organizations and individuals, because it's not necessarily the buzzwords, and it's not maybe as exciting as some of the other topics or the other things that are coming in your inbox today. But if we think about the last topic, when I was talking about personalizing the user experience and some of the legacy systems or technologies or platforms you might be using, if you have a legacy platform that doesn't have configurability to handle things like automated advanced workflow actions or triggers, what RPA really does is it has the potential to be applied to those older legacy systems to do things that are happening in technology. So if you have a system that maybe doesn't easily integrate, and so what RPA can do is use a swivel chair approach of passing information, meaning that it can take information from one system, make a turn over and change and take that information and put it into another system. And so RPA really takes care of the back and forth of that data, but it also performs tasks on the data. So maybe you need to transform that data before you put it into a different system. RPA can really do that. It can take it out of one system, it can transform it, and then move it to a different application. And if you think about more generally what this means is a lot of people or a lot of organizations are looking at applying this to their business, and more generally, whether that be through product development or production or warehousing, this is happening across a business and not just in HR.
I'm very excited by automation. I think it's a very exciting topic, but maybe that's just why I'm in the job that I'm in. Annie, do we have any stats to hand on the sort of savings workers that could be replaced by a robotic process or software robot?
Yeah, put me on the spot for numbers. So some of the general numbers that we're seeing right now suggest that one software robot can replace and outperform 3 workers. So if you think about that, of course, it really depends on the task, the consistency, and the application of RPA. But that's pretty impactful. Enterprises are able to essentially move their humans and a lot of the other work that may have been done by humans, and are able to move that to technology handling a lot of that, and allow humans to focus on the higher value tasks. So if you think about that one robot could replace 3 workers, essentially that's giving you a net of people that are able to focus more on service delivevery. And the ROI for this maybe can materialize in usually a matter of months in most situations. Versus, sometimes you think about these things and you think, oh, it's going to take years. So it can happen pretty quickly, and it's really, I think, going to be a game changer for most organizations.
And Annie and Tim, just a question on the robotics. Recruiters, will they still have a job in 5 to 10 years?
Yes, good question. Lots of articles about this, right? And people talking about this. They will. We feel that it will change the work that they're doing. So I think when we go back when applicant tracking systems were first put in place, the role of the recruiter changed then. And that was probably the last time it's changed, what I would consider pretty significantly. I see that this will just change the recruiter's role again. So they'll get to focus more on, a lot of organizations are talking about talent advisory or consulting. They'll be able to perform that role and really take a look at things like, do you have the right type of worker in the right role? Are you looking for the right type of talent? What is the market intelligence? Versus being focused on processing information and systems. So they will, it's just going to change.
There was a phrase used at our conference just held this week, taking the robot out of the human, which I thought was which is great. So it's designed to take away the repetitive and mundane from the role and make it more more engaging for recruiters. So certainly agree with what Annie said.
Okay.
So there we have it. That's we've covered the 5 key trends that we feel you should be considering with technology as part of your talent strategy. We will, of course, continue to monitor these and provide updates. But now it's 3:05 local time in Europe. So I'll hand back to the moderator and see if you have any questions that we can answer. Hugo, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Annie and Tim. Great presentation. Thank you for sharing your insights with us. If people do have a question, please send them through the box at the top right hand of your screen. And you can, let's see if we have any questions. I have one question here is, well, there's so much going on HR tech, and there's so much possible. There are also so many solution providers that want to sell their product or advise you. What's your #1 tip? Not how you as organization don't get lost in all those possibilities.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to first look at what is the business problem or the strategy you're trying to solve for. So you could easily spend, days, weeks, months just looking at the tool providers, and that's really, we have people that's all they do every day, and so it would be very, you could really get lost pretty quickly if you started to just react and respond to every provider. So I'd encourage you first to look at what are you trying to accomplish as a business, what are the business challenges that you're faced with, and then start to map back to a category of a solution that you're looking at. So, if you're focused on sourcing for new talent, then, you can really kind of hone in on what type of providers you're going to be looking at. And so I'd first encourage you to go think about what's the business problem, what's your strategy that you're trying to accomplish, and then narrow down the solution categories, and then start to sift through it that way. It will make it more obtainable and easier than going and maybe getting stuck on something that isn't going to have an impact on your business.
Okay. Every now and then I see an article who will be the next Uber of the recruitment business. Do you think that there will be a disruptive HR tech company that will disrupt the entire business?
Potentially, but I think a lot of it will be really around that first building a tech stack and being an open sort of marketplace for bringing in different types of talent. And so while there may be a tech provider that comes along and is able to do that, I think part of it will also be a matter of building an ecosystem and building a tech stack that can kind of accomplish those things, meaning that you can make sense of all of these providers out there and plug into as many providers that are going to be relevant. Potentially there will be a technology provider that comes along and does that, but I think at the moment, kind of the immediate need or the immediate future of that is just really finding providers that can plug in and pull in multi-channels of sources, whether that be freelancer, contingent, staff aug, permanent hiring. I think that's where it'll start, and then we'll see an evolution go towards really kind of that Uber experience.
Yeah. I was at a conference in Dallas in September of staffing industry analysts, and there was a lot of talk about what the big tech companies like Google and Facebook and Microsoft, together with LinkedIn, will do in the business. And at the other end, I see a lot of small startups who are developing interesting tools and on onboarding or all kinds of tools. The huge big ones or the very small ones. What to look at? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting, and an interesting observation too. When I was at HR Tech in October in Las Vegas, kind of the same thing. I saw Google had a booth there, and so it's interesting to see how that conference has changed with a different variety of providers. And I think it will be. We're going to see certainly mergers and acquisitions happen, especially if you look at like the freelance, the FMS space. I think we're going to see continuous more pop up, and then we're going to see it start to combine, merge, acquire, and sort of condense down. I do think a lot of the large providers are now setting up in a way that small providers can work with them, meaning that we see some of these smaller providers being able to do things like kind of basic, but index for Google for jobs. And so Google's setting it up in a way that small providers can still interact and still sort of work with their infrastructure at a more global enterprise or a bigger scale. And so I do think that we'll continue to see small and large, but I do think we're going to see in certain solution categories a lot of mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you once again, Tim and Annie, for sharing your thoughts and doing this webinar from the States and from London. It's the end of the webinar day 1 here in Holland. We'll have 4 more days of webinars this week. Especially interesting maybe for all of viewers at this moment is the Wednesday when HR Tech will be the main topic for all the webinars on Wednesday. Okay, thank you again, and well, maybe see you again somewhere, Annie and Tim.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.